Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about something that doesn't get enough love, and that is your liver. And when we care for the liver, we actually can balance our hormones and have more energy. So, today we're going to talk about the role of the liver and how that plays into our hormones and energy levels, and then things that you can do to love your liver. So, the role of the liver is for vitality. And so, if we are able to, if everything's moving clearly and freely, and the liver's not backed up, and we don't have a ton of toxins in the body, then our hormones are balanced, our energy is good, and we have clarity. But if we're taking in a bunch of toxins and the liver is overworking, then this starts to mess up the hormonal balance, and our energy starts to get sluggish because the liver is working so hard to detox and move things around that, and we're building up that more toxins in general because we're not moving them through fast enough, that it affects our energy levels and our hormone. And so the liver is also the main role is processing. So we think of the liver as like a detoxer because it gets rid of the toxins from the body, but it also takes all of the good, nourishing food that we bring in and it transforms it into material that the body can absorb. And then it becomes a nurturing process. So it transports the nutrients into the rasa dhatu, which is the first tissue layer. So in Ayurveda, the rasa dhatu, there's seven tissue layers, and the rasa dhatu is the first tissue layer, and that is like the plasma and the lymph. And if we have a nice, healthy, movable tissue layer and plasma, then this is going to help nourish all of the other seven layers of the body. But if our rasa dhatu is dried up and not nourished, then this leads to all of the other seven tissue layers being depleted as well. So this is why it's so important that we are making sure that we have low toxins in the body, we're eating good food, we're taking care of ourselves, and then that way the liver can make sure that we're getting good nutrients to that rasa dhatu and we have a healthy rasa dhatu. So the liver's role in hormone health. So the liver activates certain hormones and then breaks down the excess hormones like estrogen and prevents hormonal buildup or stagnation. So if we are taking in toxins, there's like a ton of different types of toxins that come into the body that trick the body into thinking that they're estrogen. And so the liver has to break down a lot of these extra hormones and toxins. And so this is what can prevent hormonal buildup or stagnation, is because the liver is working really hard to break down these chemicals that act like hormones. And a sluggish liver can contribute to PMS or heavy cycle, mood swings, low energy, and cycle irregularity. And so, if you are trying to regulate your menstrual cycle, then this is a really good place to start and see if you can, even just by tending to the liver, if this helps create more energy and regulates your cycle. So, there's three different Agnis in Ayurveda, and we won't get into all of that, but they're all very important in the processing of our food. But the Bhuta Agni is the Agni of the liver, and the Bhuta Agni's job is to digest the five elements in food, which is earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And when the body, the liver digests these five elements, it then decides what kind of nourishment the food contains so that it knows where to send the nourishment, and then it prevents AMA or toxic buildup, and it allows nutrients to be absorbed correctly by the tissues. And that's by if we can keep that rasa datu, that first tissue layer, nice and um, lubricated and well nourished, then we're going to be able to get to the other tissue layers better. And so that's why it's so important that the liver is functioning correctly and we have that healthy first tissue layer. So that way, all the other tissue layers are then going to be able to get that deeper nourishment. And the liver is also linked to our emotions as well. And this is those, so it's if you're familiar with Ayurveda, there's the three doshas of kapha, which is earth and water, and then pitta, which is fire, and then vata, which is air and ether. And so the liver is the pitta, it's the fire. This is where Pitta people tend to go out of alignment. So if you are a Pitta person, then you definitely will want to take more care of your liver or take a lot of these suggestions more seriously. And so the liver is linked to anger, frustration, resentment, and suppressed emotions. And that is another role in the liver is processing our suppressed emotions and allowing for these emotions to move through us. And so one of the journaling questions you can ask yourself is where am I holding instead of releasing? And you can even sit and just ask this question to yourself while in meditation and practice allowing these emotions to move through you. And the best way to move an emotion through you is to just stay with the emotion until it releases. And if you want to practice that, you don't give the emotion a storyline as it comes up. You don't say like, "Oh, this I'm feeling this way because and blah 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 blah." You're just like, "Oh, wow, I'm feeling this way." I name it like I'm feeling really upset. You can even say like, "I, Becky, am feeling really upset right now." And this helps to separate you from the emotion. So it's just something you're experiencing rather than like, I'm upset. It's like, I am feeling upset. And it just gives you a little bit of space so that you can instead not add the storyline because that's not what's so important. And then we just want to allow the emotion to move through you. And you just stay with it until it releases. And you'll just kind of know when it's moved through and passed by. And when we're in the middle of like really challenging emotions, it can be hard to stay with them. This is why emotions get suppressed. And so when we come back to them later, if we don't add a ton of story to it, it can move through us rather quickly. If it starts to get too intense, or if you have a lot of really traumatic emotions that need to be released, then you should probably do that with a trained professional. Okay, so how we love the liver. So these are the three main things we can do to love our liver. So we have our daily routines. Daily rituals build resilience and ojas, allowing hormones to regulate naturally. So when we just align our routine with the day, aligning with the sun, aligning with the moon. I have different videos on all of those things. But when we align our routine with nature, then our hormones will just start to naturally regulate themselves. And one of the reasons for that is because we're also tending to the liver in this way. And then seasonal cleansing. So this clears stagnation and excess pitta to support digestion and hormone balance. So a lot of our liver or hormonal function and liver function has a lot to do with the state of our agni or the state of our digestion. And twice a year during the spring and the fall, we want to do just a little seasonal cleanse. It's almost like changing the oil of your car twice a year. You're just gonna like go in and do a little maintenance work. And this helps to balance our agni or get our digestion back on track. And then this will also, in turn, clear out the liver, help the liver not have to work so hard, and balance out the hormones. And then rest and emotional release. Rest allows the liver to complete its detox and renewal cycle. So just having time throughout the day where you can sit down and relax is really good for the liver. But even beyond that, we want to be in bed before 10 p.m. at night. And we want to make sure we're not eating too late at night because one of the times that the liver does most of its detoxing is actually at midnight. And if you're not asleep, then it won't do it. And if you've ate a ton of food before bed, then the body is still processing so much, digesting so much food. And then the liver has to digest that food and send it out to where it needs to go. Then it doesn't have time to go in and do the deeper cleaning. And so this is why sleep and sleeping during the hours of 10 p.m. to like around 5 or 6 a.m. is going to be the best time for your liver to detox and stay healthy. So, how do we give the liver some love? These are all the suggestions I have. So, wake up with the sun. There are a ton of studies that show that if you wake up with the sun and you go outside first thing in the morning, no matter what the weather is, no matter the time of the year, you're just going to go outside first thing in the morning and get some sunlight into your eye and onto your face. That sunlight is not going to burn you or give you skin cancer. And so you don't need to put on any, you don't need to put on anything. You don't need sunglasses. You're just going to go outside. You're going to get the actual sunlight into your eyes. And this tells the body that it's time to wake up. It's time to get all of the vital functions working for the day, and the body will start to do all of these things that tell it, like, hey, we're starting the day. Let's get going. And a lot of this is hormone function. This is when we start to make the melatonin that we're going to use later that night. And so a lot of this stuff has to do with how well our hormones will function all day long if we can get that morning sun, and it's going to go right in the eye. So you can try not to put your contacts in yet. Just go outside, get that sun. And then start your day with warm lemon water before you have your coffee, just waking up all those organs and getting everything moving. Eat the largest meal at noon. So when we eat our largest meal at dinner, then we are going to, and especially if we eat a late dinner, so this makes it even trickier. But we are going to keep all that food in the gut and it's not going to digest. And then when the liver goes to detox at midnight, it's not going to be able to. And that's because we're eating too big of meals at dinner time. And it's called supper because it's actually supposed to just supplement you until breakfast. And at lunch is actually meant to be the biggest meal of the day. So favor bitter and green foods. So the liver loves bitter, it loves green. So the more green foods you can get into your diet, the better. I know that a lot of people like to do green smoothies, and that's up to you, but a lot of that's actually difficult to digest because it's raw. So just like steaming your veggies and your greens just slightly can actually help them be easier to digest. So if you ever notice yourself getting a stomach ache after you like have a smoothie, it might be because it's raw and your body's having a hard time digesting it. Avoid late night eating. So I just talked about how if you eat too late at night and the body's still digesting, it's not going to be able to go in and do that deeper cleaning. Reduce your alcohol and caffeine intake. So alcohol and caffeine are both very pitta. These are things that are like heating. And so they will aggravate anything that's pitta. And since the liver's pitta, it will aggravate the liver. Gentle twisting yoga poses. So anytime you're doing twisting, That's like kind of like wringing out that liver organ. And then daily walking, especially if you can get up and walk with that morning sun, even better. But or like a 2 p.m. daily walk is a really good time as well. But getting outside and moving the body every day is just so good for the liver and keeping all everything just working properly. Abhyanga, my one of my favorite things in the whole world, oil massage. I do more Abhyanga than probably most people. I don't know. But I try to do, I don't do like a full blown oil massage every time, but I oil up like morning and night. I love to put oil all over my body because it's very grounding, it's very healing, it's very protective. It's very good for the nervous system. It's like one of the best things we can do for ourselves. It's very loving. It's like telling every time I do the Abhyanga, I am reminding myself like how I want to love myself and take care of myself. Oil is a very loving energy. It's very protective. And so Abhyanga at least once a day. You don't have to do a 10-minute oil massage. You can make it like a 3-minute Abhyanga. So just and I don't think you can over oil in our dry climate and this time of everything's just so vata. And that grounding is just so amazing. So early bedtime. And I talked about this because if you are not asleep by midnight, then your liver is not going to go in and do that deeper work. And really, we want to be asleep a couple hours before that time so that we're in that deep rest state and the body can really go in and do what it needs to do. So, cooling herbs and teas, one of the best herbs that you can take, especially during the summer, is aloe vera. And this will help the liver so much. And in the summertime, this is like when the liver's most likely to get aggravated. And so, this is why we want to be even more attentive to the liver in the summer. But one of the best ways is aloe vera. Other great cooling herbs are mint and oh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but there's so many. Okay, emotional release practices. So there's that slide earlier where I talked about staying with your emotions and following them all the way to the end is one of the best ways to release. Or you can do shadow work or again work with like a therapist and a professional. And this also can help release a lot of anger and built up resentment. And then seasonal resets. So I talked about that with like cleansing twice a year and just aligning yourself with whatever season you're eating or you're in so that you're eating along with the season will really help keep the body in its natural rhythm, which will just automatically help the liver work easier, my dog, work easier, and the hormones will naturally balance themselves out. And then rest without guilt. Make sure that you take time to just sit down and relax and do nothing. Whether, I mean, you can read a book or something, but just being like restful for a certain time of the day, even taking like a 20-minute nap is a great way to give the liver some love. And so I'd love to know if you do any of these things, if you've ever had a doctor tell you that your liver was compromised, or if you think that maybe it is. And I hope that I see you in the next video. Have a nice day.